What if I told you there's a fruit that outperforms tomatoes nutritionally, produces reliably where tomatoes fail, and was once considered so valuable that entire rural communities depended on it? Yet most people today barely know it exists. What if I told you this plant fruits in partial shade, tolerates cold, doesn't need daily care, and keeps producing year after year without replanting? What if I told you it was once common in home gardens, medical texts, and wartime nutrition plans, then quietly erased from agriculture, education, and public memory? Because that is exactly what happened. But this wasn't a fragile crop. It didn't need perfect soil. It didn't need constant watering. It didn't demand pesticides. It didn't rely on global seed supply chains. And yet today, it's absent from supermarkets, seed catalogs, and gardening advice, replaced by fragile annuals that demand sun, chemicals, and constant human input. Tomatoes are treated as essential. This plant was treated as disposable. And here's the contradiction that should make you uncomfortable. When food security actually mattered, during shortages, wars, and economic collapse, this plant was promoted, not ignored. So why is it gone? Why was it removed from farms, discouraged by policy, and written out of modern food systems? By the end of this video, you will know exactly what it is, why it was suppressed, and who benefited. This channel exists for one reason: to examine food, health, and history without protecting comfortable narratives. We work from documented evidence. We trace policy decisions. We follow incentives, not slogans. When something disappears, we ask who gained control, who lost access, and who was told to forget. If that approach matters to you, staying subscribed is not about supporting a creator. It's about keeping these conversations visible in systems that often prefer silence. The plant is blackcurrant ribes nigrum. This is not a trend. It is not a political statement. It is not alternative agriculture. It is a documented food crop with a long medical, agricultural, and industrial history. Before you dismiss this, understand this is not what you were told. Blackcurrants were not forgotten because they failed. They were removed. Blackcurrants are one of the most nutrient-dense fruits ever cultivated. They contain 3 to 4 times more vitamin C than tomatoes, along with high concentrations of anthocyanins, bioactive compounds that directly influence inflammation, blood vessel function, and oxidative stress. Unlike tomatoes, blackcurrants do not rely on intense sunlight to develop nutritional value. Their pigment production and antioxidant content are genetically driven, not sun-dependent. From a biological perspective, blackcurrants interact with the body in ways tomatoes do not. Anthocyanins support endothelial function, improving blood flow. Polyphenol modulate inflammatory signaling pathways. Vitamin C content supports immune response. Without synthetic supplementation, this matters because blackcurrants are perennial. They do not require annual soil disturbance, fertilizer cycles, or replanting. They produce for years. They tolerate partial shade. They survive cold. They resist pests naturally. That makes them cheap, scalable, and extremely difficult to monopolize. And that is precisely why they became a problem. If this plant is so productive, nutritionally superior, and resilient, why was it removed, banned, or discredited? Pause here, because the answer is not biological. It is economic. In the 1800s and early 1900s, blackcurrants were widely grown across Europe and North America. They were used in home gardens, preserved foods, medical tonics, military rations during World War II. Britain actively promoted blackcurrant cultivation to prevent vitamin C deficiency when citrus imports were cut off. Doctors prescribed blackcurrant syrups. Governments subsidized production. Then came pressure from a different industry. Blackcurrants can host white pine blister rust, a fungus that threatens commercial white pine plantations. The timber industry raised alarms. In the early 1900s, U.S. federal and state governments introduced bans on blackcurrant cultivation, not because of food safety, but to protect timber assets. Entire agricultural extension systems stopped teaching it. Seed supply collapsed. Generations grew up never encountering the plant. This was not accidental. Public messaging reframed blackcurrants as dangerous, irresponsible, or obsolete. The nuance was erased. Instead of selective management, the crop was portrayed as a threat that needed elimination. Language mattered. Risk to forestry became should not be grown. Agriculturale institution complete. Media repeated simplified warnings. And once a food leaves markets and classrooms, it leaves memory. Small farmers lost perennial income sources. Communities lost access to reliable nutrition. Medical reliance shifted towards synthetic vitamin supplementation. And an entire crop disappeared from public diets, not because it harmed people, but because it conflicted with industrial priorities. No edists, no drama, just quiet removal. That is often how control works. Modern research now confirms what history already showed. Blackcurrants do not pose significant forestry risk when managed, provide measurable cardiovascular and immune benefits, outperform many common fruits nutritionally. Countries that lifted bans saw no ecological collapse. The predictions failed, but the crop never fully returned. Industrial agriculture benefits from annual crops. Supplement companies benefit from nutrient deficiencies. Seed suppliers benefit from dependency. Perennials that feed people without repeat purchases are bad for profit models. The incentives did not change. Only the memory did. This was never about safety. It was about protecting assets, simplifying policy, and maintaining control over food systems. You were not uninformed. You were redirected. Look up what disappeared from your diet and when. Ask who decided. Ask who benefited. And if you want these questions to stay visible, engage with them publicly. Silence is always easier than correction, and that should concern you more than any plan ever could.